todos y bienvenidos a mi canal una vez más. Espero que todos estéis bien. So today's video is actually going to be in English, and I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of living in a small town versus living in a city as an Aux in Andalusia. This is my second time being in Aux. Last time I lived in Almeria city, and this time I'm living in a small town called Estepa. Roughly 12,000 to 13,000 people live here, which is like not a lot of people. Also, I'm going to put timestamps in this video just in case there's a specific thing that you're interested about. First of all, I'm going to talk about the pros of living in a small town. So probably the main thing is that it's a lot cheaper than living in the city. Rent prices tend to be cheaper in a small town. Obviously with the Aux salary we don't get paid that much money, so you kind of don't want to be spending half your paycheck on your rent or like 3/4 of your paycheck on rent. Another big disadvantage of a small town is kind of like how slow paced life is here. In the city people tend to be, you know, very concerned with their own lives and just it's very fast paced. It's a very different environment, but yeah, it's very peaceful and it's very walkable as well. Literally everything is maybe a 10-15 minute walk. Like I'll never be walking for more than 15 minutes. Everything is literally just nearby, so that's a big advantage as well. Another good thing about small towns is the people tend to be nicer. Now, I'm only speaking for Estepa, to be honest with you, because I don't know what it's like in other towns, but generally speaking, like in Estepa, people have been so nice to me anytime I'm like talking to anyone. I think especially because I'm not from here, they're like, oh, you know, if you ever need help, if you ever need anything, just let me know. I think two of the main disadvantages to living in the town is there's not always a lot of things to do. You know, when you first get to the town, you look at all the things that they have to offer, you like go to the restaurants and stuff, but after a while things can get not boring but maybe a bit repetitive, and there's maybe not as many things that you can do compared to when you're in the city. And then another big thing is transport, because most Auxes here, even if you do drive, like you most likely won't have a car here, so you are relying on public transport to get you to places. Luckily there is a bus station here, so there are buses that go to Seville and Malaga. I think Estepa's quite well situated. We're kind of actually like in the middle of Cordoba, Malaga and Sevilla. When I was picking where to stay, there was a bunch of towns that were basically in the middle of nowhere. So I asked my Spanish friend who's from Seville, I asked her, I was like, which of these towns are good to move to, and she was like, none of them, because they're very like rural, there's like no buses, it's hard to get around. So that is something you need to keep in mind. Now, not every town is like that, it really just depends on where it's kind of located, but transport can be a bit of a funny one depending on where you are. For example, the next town over, Osuna, they've got a train station and they've got a bus station, so they have more options for transport. So as I said, it really does depend on what town that you're in. I think one of the main advantages of living in the city is that there are a lot more things to do. You know, there's more cafes, more restaurants to go to, parks, you know, more events, activities. There's maybe more young people. It's more diverse as well, tends to be more diverse in the city, so that's definitely a good thing. You might maybe be able to meet more people if you're going to like clubs and events and stuff like that. And then of course in cities there tends to be more transport. For example, when I lived in Almeria, I could get the bus to like Granada or to Malaga, and it was quite regular as well. For example, here in Estepa, if you want to go to Malaga, there's only maybe like 1 or 2 buses that go every day, and on Saturdays and Sundays and on holidays it's different. But you can use other things like BlaBlaCar, for example. This can actually apply to towns or cities. You might feel lonely, you can feel lonely in either of them, but for example, I know an Aux this year who was in Seville, was paying a lot of money for rent and was quite lonely, like she didn't really meet people, and she was actually about to go home. However, she ended up moving to Osuna, which is the town near to Estepa, and you know, she found a group of people, a group of Auxes that she could be friends with, and you know, she's still here in Spain. But I think it just goes to show that it's not the end of the world if you are placed in a small town. For example, here in Estepa there's 8 assistants including myself, so 7 other people that I'm friends with, that I can talk to, that I can meet up with. Basically, the main reason I wanted to make this video is because a lot of people are placed in towns, especially in Andalusia, and just to let you know that like it's not the end of the world. Like there are disadvantages and advantages to both. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention, one big advantage of living in a town is you will speak more in Spanish. So especially if that's your goal, like that's why you want to do this program, like to improve your Spanish. You will be able to speak a lot more Spanish. For me, that's been a big advantage because I've wanted to improve my Spanish and speak in Spanish as much as possible. Now, a lot of the things I said are like common sense and things like that, but mostly I wanted to make the video just to let people who are placed in towns know that it's not the worst thing in the world. If you have any questions or anything, just comment below. Or if you have any questions about the AUX programme, if you're going to be in AUX next year or this year in October, September, you can send me a DM on Instagram as well. I've had a few people messaging me because maybe they've seen my previous video about being in AUX, and I'm happy to help anyone who has any questions about the programme. I'm hopefully going to make a few more videos about being in AUX, because I think it could be helpful just for people to have information and kind of know what the process is like and things like that. So if there's any type of video that you want to see or anything that you're curious about, just send me a DM or leave a comment. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you on the next one. Adios!